Hello, everyone. It is Thursday, and this is our Tech Talk for Parents summer series. My name is Leah Neiman. I'm an author, a consultant, and a speaker. I write at leahneiman.com, and today is our last June session, and we are going to be talking about talking to your kids, guiding them back without tearing them down. We do have 4 more sessions in our summer series in July, but this is our last one for June. So I just want to say really quickly before we start, if you haven't gone out to the subscriber area and gotten the handouts for the sessions, be sure to head on over there and get those. You'll find them when you opt into my email list, and then you can get to the subscriber page that way. Be sure to earmark it so you can always get back in there. But there are handouts for the previous sessions. They are up on the page now. And if you've missed any of these Tech Talk series, the recordings are there for you as well. So don't worry if you've missed any of the sessions. They are on this page, but they're also right there on that subscriber page. So if you don't want to scroll down and have to try to find them on this page, they're right there on the subscriber page along with the handouts. There's some really nice handouts that go along with these sessions. So be sure to head on over and grab those on the subscriber page. When you're on my subscriber page, you'll also see that there are some other subscriber freebies as well. There's guides for Android, iOS, and Kindle. And then there's also some subscriber freebies that go along for each month. I try to put up a new subscriber freebie. So be sure to head on over and grab those. Make sure you grab the April subscriber freebie. That's going to be coming down tomorrow. So it comes down in June. I usually leave them up for a couple months and then I'll take those down and rotate them through. So if you have not gotten this April subscriber freebie yet, be sure to snag that before the end of the 30th. So before the end of tomorrow, grab that so you can have that as well. All right, so let's jump in. I try to keep these Tech Talks for Parents to about 15 minutes or less. We've been going over a little bit in the summer series, but I try to make these sessions short and doable for busy parents. So we're going to talk about how to guide our kids back without tearing them down. So a lot of people approach social media with the thought that I'm going to really control the situation. I'm really going to stay on top of it, and my kid's never going to fail or never going to have this oops moment. And while we do want to set our kids up for success, and I'll give you a few tips about doing that, I just think that's unrealistic as a parent. And I'll just say as a parent myself, you're going to have those times where you have to go back and have conversations with your kids about maybe what they post, the tone, maybe they get a social media account without your permission, all sorts of things. So we want to approach social media as we're training our kids, right? So I like to tell parents, we put this expectation on ourselves that sometimes we can't live up to and our kids can't live up to. And I think what happens as parents is we read every horror story on social media, right? So what comes out in the news is often really bad situations, and that's what's in the news. And that's great because it helps us hopefully to be a little more on guard as parents, but sometimes it makes us overreact as parents as well. So when we approach social media in our homes, we need to approach it as any other safety issue and any other parenting issue. And sometimes we don't do that. We wait and have a conversation when our kids are 13 and they're ready to get on social media. Or we approach it as this huge mountain and we make our kids afraid to come to us because we make it seem like if they do this, have one failure, that it's all over, their life is over and it's ruined, instead of just approaching it as a normal safety issue. So for instance, we know that our kids shouldn't run around the swimming pool, right? And we tell our kids that. But how many of us have told our kids that, and then we go to the pool and we have to tell our kids, don't run around the pool, right? Or we tell our kids not to run out in the road. We're in the parking lot. We're walking across Target with them. How many times have we had to tell our kids and remind our kids or reach out and grab them and pull them back? It's going to be the same with social media. We're going to tell our kids something when they're young, and then we're going to have to watch, and we're going to have to guard. And then we may even have to take them by the hand and guide them back. So I think when we begin to look at it that way as a parent, all of a sudden, we take the pressure off us and we create this normalcy in our home about social media. And we realize too that sometimes our struggle with social media is sometimes it may be about ourselves, because when our child does something on social media, it's public, right? Or depending on how wide their account is. So sometimes we need to step back and ask, is this about me or is it about my child? And I know that's been my struggle at times as well. So when my child posts something, am I really concerned about them, or am I really like, oh no, everyone's seen that? So really begin to have dialogue with your kids and try to think of it as it's a parenting issue, and this is something that we're going to just approach as safety issues in our house. And when you read those stories on social media that scare you to death as a parent, definitely dive in. So the recent one, and I just talked about this today, was Snapchat. So we want to go in, we want to make sure that our kids' location's not showing public for everyone, but we don't want to overreact in such a way that our kids can't talk to us about those. All right, so let's dive in and let's talk about some of those ways we can guide our kids back. I like to really look at some strong people when I think about parenting. So if you look at a lot of football coaches, like professional coaches, and you see like a man go down on the field, what do you see and what don't you see? Well, you really never see a coach just yelling and screaming at a player when they're down on the field, right? What do you see? They send out medics, they send out people to analyze the situation. Is this player hurt? Do they need to come off the field? What's happened? And then what do? They remove that player from the field. And then it's not that there might not be some correction. Maybe the player did something wrong to cause that play to go wrong, cause an injury or whatever. All of that happens behind closed doors, right? So we don't see that as spectators at a football game, a soccer game, whatever. That's all happening. The coach is taking care of that behind the scenes. We don't see that. And I like to think about social media in that way. So as parents, when our child makes a mistake on social media, the worst thing that we can do is to then correct them openly on social media. That's a parenting issue. Your child needs to know that they can come to you if they are upset about something that they've seen, if they're having an issue with a friend. And we break down those walls of communication when we do the same thing that is their worst fear on social media, which is to embarrass them, to create a big situation. So keep in mind that we need to protect our child's privacy. We need to protect their feelings, and that we also need to make sure that we are always keeping that level of trust with our child while we're taking care of that situation, while we're providing correction, and while we're guiding them. So it's not that we're not guiding them, but we're not doing so in an open public forum. And that's what social media is. So create that force field of protection around your child, but do so in a way where those parenting issues are not happening openly on social media. That's one of the things that is breaks my heart more than anything, is when I see that happening. And that's with anything. So I see a lot of parenting issues happening on social media, and we're doing the same exact thing when we do that as we're telling our kids not to do, right? When we do that. All right. So protect your child's privacy, protect your kids' hearts, and protect that line of communication and line of trust that you have with your child always. Make sure that you're the point of contact through social media. Give them an out. I always tell my kids, I will be the heavy. I will give you an out. So let them come to you if they need a way out of a situation or if they need help on social media. So make sure that you are that way out if they're struggling, that they can find their way back with you and through you. All right, there I am. Sorry about that. I just dropped out. Thanks for your patience. This is a new program with Be Live, so I don't know why I just dropped out, but hopefully I'm back and you guys can see me. Type in a chat if you can't see me, and I will check over here on the page just to see if you're still able to see me. All right, I'm showing on the page. All right, so be that line of trust with your kids. So just by doing those three things where you create a hedge of protection around your kids. Okay, then make sure that you set your kids up for success from the beginning. So if you have to guide them back, do so by setting them up for success. So teach them by showing. So again, that example that you're giving them, show them by your actions how to behave on social media, how to set up those accounts on social media. So make sure that you're showing them how to block someone if they need to do that, how to set up those privacy settings. And again, a good example was in Snapchat today, show them why we need to hide that location, show them how to do those settings. Be on guard for those changes in the social media accounts to come out. You can do that by opting into my newsletter. I put out social media updates for families, but you can also do that by just follow the Snapchat blog or follow the Instagram blog or follow the Safe Facebook blogs. You can follow those and they'll put out the updates so you can stay on top of that. Follow tech sources. People ask me all the time, how do you find out about that? I follow sources of tech news. So show your kids how to manage those settings and how to stay safe online. Teach them by talking. Talk to them about the issues that they're dealing with. Talk to them about things that they love to do, things that they don't like. Just have that be natural conversations in your home. And then teach them by setting up guidelines that are age appropriate, and then knowing when to pull back and then when you might need to step back in and put some of those guidelines up. Because again, we're talking about we might set up guidelines and then we might see an issue that we have to deal with, and so we might have to pull back and reevaluate those guidelines. So don't be afraid of that. I think that's the number one thing. We'll set our kids up, we'll give them some room, right? And then we might have to deal with the situation, and we might need to put them back in a situation where we might monitor a little more, or we might need to install something to monitor social media. We might need to take a social media break. That's not a failure. That's just guiding our kids through social media, but sometimes we look at it as a failure. So don't look at it as a failure on your child's part or on your part. Just look at it as this is parenting. This is what parenting is. I think one of the things that people get so frustrated about social media is that social media is communication, and we act like it's this different layer, and it's communication, but a lot of times it's happening in a public forum. And what's happening during those teenage years is our kids are learning how to communicate in a public forum, and so we just kind of have this collision of things that are happening all at once. So don't feel like it's a failure on your part or your kids' part that you're constantly walking through social media and you're having these communication things that you're working out. You're guiding your kids through that. All right, so don't be afraid to have to adjust those boundaries and stay up to date on what's going on with their social media accounts. Give them a little bit of guidance, a little bit of room. And again, I just really, really strongly encourage you to make sure that when you're dealing with those situations, you're kind of bringing it home and dealing with those in the privacy of your family setting. All right, so those are kind of my suggestions for guiding your kids back. Stay on top of social media, but again, allow your kids to have that room to breathe a little bit. And I have a number of tools on my site. I will link in some blog posts about some ways that you can guide your kids back by if you need to monitor through Wi-Fi, or if you need to install some devices on phones. I never recommend installing a device on a phone without letting your kids know about that. So if that's a step that you need to do, I can give some recommendations, but then also, I recommend that you do talk to your kids and say, we're going to install this because we want to be open about what's going on. And then one thing that I would encourage you to do is, if you have big groups of kids over at your house and you feel like you need to monitor what's happening within your home, you can take your Wi-Fi down if that's something that you need to do. So I have some instructions on my site, and I will post that down here in a link so that you can have access to that as well. And again, if you're in my subscriber area, that will be a subscriber in the subscriber freebie area at the end of the week. So be looking for that. So, all right, it looks like we're having a little bit of freezing issues tonight. I will re-record if this ends up being choppy and throw that up on YouTube for those of you who might be watching the playback. So if this ends up being really choppy tonight for whatever reason, I will re-record and then throw this up in YouTube, and it will be linked in the subscriber area as well. So, all right, everyone, I hope these tips were helpful. Thanks for joining us for this Tech Talk series in June. I look forward to the July sessions, and have a great evening, everyone. And I will see you again next Thursday as we kick off our July Tech Talk for Parents summer series. Have a great evening, everyone. Thanks.